We had, ladies and gentlemen,
tuko na
this one
Hamza Masha
through the
ameenda
lift
wapi?
truck. But it knocked down our building. It didn't replace them with anything more offensive than rubble. We did that.
Nimemwona.
Quite strong words. I'd forgotten quite how strong they were, and that was extraordinary at the time, coming from the heir to the throne. He's fair to say a bit quieter on these sort of views these days, but he has been for a lifetime pursuing his interests, and a lot of that is around the beauty of the built environment as well. And I have to say, hand on heart, cards on the table, I am a huge fan of the king, and I'm a huge fan of him being what we say, an active monarch. Okay, he could be someone who just kind of quietly shuffles onto the stage for state occasions and lives in a palace and doesn't pursue anything as vigorously as he does. But this has been his life's work of decades, his interest in the environment, his interest in beauty, in urban beauty, in making spaces which are just nicer for people to live in, his interest in young people through the Prince's Trust and so on. Is he really meant to just sit back and say, yes, I know I'm the king of England and Wales now, but I'm just going to sit back, king of the United Kingdom, I'm just going to sit back and say nothing and do nothing for these causes that I have cared about so deeply for decades and decades of my life, and I actually have real lived practical and business experience of how to bring my causes to the fore, how to build places that people want to live in, such as Poundbury, his village, would you call it, or estate in Dorset. He developed it on land owned by the Duchy of Cornwall, which he controlled as heir to the throne. Now Poundbury is home to more than 4,000 people. Another 2,000 people work in its shops, offices, factories and cafes. So he's not someone who's just been scribbling eccentric letters to ministers for years and sending them off and just kind of having his say like that. He has really been putting his shoulder to the wheel and getting stuff done. He was really instrumental in the development of Poundbury. It has all sorts of lovely traditional buildings in it. And I think, quite frankly, King Charles, maybe my view on how activist he should be as a monarch is shaped by the fact, is influenced by the fact that I think he is right on pretty much everything. I suppose he's stronger on the environment than me, but elsewhere, he's absolutely right on the importance of the built environment to our spirits, to our lives. He's absolutely been right on all sorts of things about the importance of nature to our lives and the importance of giving people practical skills and of nurturing real crafts and skills and hands-on talents in this country. I think he's been a great Prince of Wales, and I think he is doing very well as the king as well. So I slightly took umbrage, I'll just say it, at David Dimbleby's comments. I think they seem a little bit spiteful. He talks about, why doesn't our ultra-rich king pay more tax? I mean, is this an issue that can ever be solved, really? If he said, okay, I'm going to pay X amount in tax, would people ever be happy on that score? No, I don't think so. Of course, he is a citizen apart because he's the king of the country. So I think to go after him like that and to sort of say these rather tired things about, he needs to make the royal family more relevant, they're at risk of tarnishing and losing their magic if they try and be too much like we citizens, is my view on the royal family. I would love to know your thoughts. Do you see Prince Charles, a habit of decades, do you see King Charles doing things like taking the Prime Minister around a housing development? You think, get your nose out of our affairs, you shouldn't be meddling in public policy? Or do you think, no, good on you, you're pursuing interests that have been important to you for a long time? Would you be outraged to hear that he is still writing letters to ministers as king of the country? Do you think he should be keeping his nose out of these things? Or maybe you think like me, it's great that we have a monarch with opinions and ideas and interests, and long may it last, and long may he live. I'm going to play the national anthem now in a minute. And also, on a side note, maybe it's on a side note too, should the royals pay more tax, as David Dimbleby is suggesting? Now, we're going to speak now to Graham Smith, who is Chief Executive of Republic. I think I can imagine, Graham, where you might come from on some of these issues. I would love to know your views on what David Dimbleby is saying. First of all, on this visit that the King did with Sir Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner in February of this year, taking them on a tour of his housing project in Cornwall. Do you think the King was overstepping the mark doing that? Good evening.
Well, not only overstepping the mark, but behaving entirely improperly. I was just on the phone there listening to your lengthy don't know how to say it really, but I mean, he's such sycophancy.
Peon of praise. Peon of praise.
It was sycophancy. I mean, the notion that someone is always...
Why is it sycophancy? Wait, why is it sycophancy? Sorry. To express your regard.
And this is way beyond expressing regard. You know, someone might have done something right. Doesn't mean that they are an amazing, wonderful, flawless, faultless person. And then it comes down to, should they pay tax? Of course they should pay tax. They should pay the same tax as everybody else in the country according to the law. They should be equal in law. They are currently not obliged, him and Will, not obliged to pay any tax at all. They don't disclose what tax they do pay, and we have no idea what tax that is. So the notion that because he said some stuff that you agree with, that therefore he should not be under the same obligation as every other person, and the fact that you suggested he had his shoulder to the grindstone, whatever the phrase was. He is not a busy person. He is not someone who works hard. He gets other people to do things. These are charities that are run by other people that have done things like the Prince's Trust. He is not someone who's got any lived experience.
No, he's not opening the post, Graham, you're right. But it does take his commitment to drive it forward, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't, no. Because what he does with the Prince's Trust, for example, he put a bit of money in it 50 years ago, and other people then ran it. And, he's not putting in the hours and putting in the work.
He's been supporting it for decades. Whatever you think of the royal family, you can't take away that he has been committed to a few select causes.
They're all lazy and they don't do very much work. Now, the idea that someone who is privileged to the point where we spend £500 million a year at the moment on the royal family, that we pay through the duchy, we pay William and Charles £25 million each. That's money. The duchies belong to the state. That money should be going into local communities. And then we just say, we'll pat them on the back and say, they've spoken up on some issues that I agree with. Therefore, let's not worry about whether they pay tax. Because whatever you think about Keir Starmer and Kenny Bedmont, they work harder than he does, and they are actually putting into place
You say they're lazy, Graham. Can I just interject for a moment? 2023, he undertook 516 engagements. This is a man in his 70s. I don't think it's quite fair.
That's not a lot of engagements. That's not a lot of engagements. An engagement at most is 1 hour long. Most of them are done at home, as in the palaces. A large number of them are 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. So you're talking, even if it's 500 hours, it's not a lot in the space of a year. So they keep on throwing out these numbers, 500 engagements, and they assume that people are going, that sounds like a lot. It's not a lot. It's.
What would anything? I'm imagining, Graham, not much would satisfy you. If he was working 12 hours a day, would you be?
If he was working 12 hours a day, he still shouldn't be paid £25 million for that. When the Prime Minister is on something like 170,000, why not pay him that plus maybe 10% of being head of state? But go back to your point about inviting Starmer and the Deputy Prime Minister Andrew Rayner, to his project. He makes money out of that project. So he was using his position and the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister to promote a project which the Duchy of Cornwall would make money out of. Now, that's not appropriate. The Duchy of Cornwall doesn't belong to him, but he does profit from it. Anyway, he did when he was Prince of Wales, and now William does. Duchy of Lancaster doesn't belong to him, but he does profit from it. And so
he was doing it to demonstrate how housing projects might be undertaken in a way that aesthetically.
We know how that can be done. People do that all the time, and his aesthetics are his aesthetic. No, there are loads of aesthetically pleasing housing developments all over the country, but his looks dreadful. I mean, his fake sort of mock Georgian architecture is not particularly interesting.
Well, the architectural establishment might not like it, but I would say most people in this country would prefer that to a lot of modern architecture. Would prefer someone snobbily. We'll get some polling on it, but I'm pretty sure that people prefer even that pastiche Georgian style.
And then what you do is you vote for people who want that. That's the point. If you are so much a fan of Charles, vote for him. But don't tell everybody else that they can't vote for their head of state because you're a huge fan of that person. That's like saying, well, no, I love Keir Starmer, so I don't think we should have any more elections for Parliament.
Most people don't want an elected head of state, though.
Well, most people
Why is that? Are they brainwashed?
Ni nini zake
Polling
unasema
has
wewe?
shown support for the monarchy dropped below 50% on several occasions in the last 2 years. Support for abolition has jumped to around 38%, 39%. So the polling is very much in flux. Support for the monarchy is dropping sharply. And a lot of that is because people are looking at it through in a different way since the Queen died, and looking at Charles and looking at William and thinking, well, who are these people? They're just a couple of billionaires, not paying taxes, exploiting public land, living on peppercorn rents, covering up for Andrew. This is an institution that is fundamentally corrupt and secretive, that doesn't pay tax, that doesn't pay its own way, that spends £500 million and more of our money on their own lifestyles.
You have a lot, yes. You have a lot that is negative to say about the royal family, Graham. But I wonder whether you could concede in your fiercely Republican heart that there does something good for our country. You talk about an elected head of state, and more elections, more rancor, more division.
It's already 11 minutes
who should we have, and more politicisation of that system. Don't you think there is something special in having a system, a unifying system such as the royal family, which sort of belongs to all of us? Because I could care less really about the characters, the people within it. Can I just finish my point? This is a vehicle for the traditions, the flummery, the pomp and circumstance, which, like it or not, a lot of people in this country do like. We do like to see these traditions expressed. And having a living royal family allows us to have the sort of flim-flam royalty, which we all rather enjoy, from the royal weddings to the castles and so on, and which are a huge part of British soft power too.
That's not true. But the castles will still be there.
Are you denying, Graham? Are you denying that the royal family is part of Britain's soft power appeal in the world?
Yes, because soft power itself is a highly questioned concept.
Do you think Donald Trump? Do you think Donald Trump would have been so keen to come to the UK if it weren't for the state banquet with royalty?
Donald Trump has done all sorts of visits and had all sorts of people come to him. He is playing a game according to his own interests. Well, quite possibly, yes. We don't know. But the point is that he is visiting all sorts of countries. He plays a game that is in line with his own interests, and he waxes and wanes this way and that. But the point is, we shouldn't be holding on to what is a fundamentally unprincipled, corrupt institution because it happens to please Donald Trump, who is in power for 4 years. Now, that is not the basis.
The only reason that was an example I was giving, that there is something.
But there are no. When William and Kate went to the Caribbean, all they did was embarrass and humiliate Britain. And when Edward and Sophie went there a month later, they did the same thing. These are not good ambassadors for the country. And there is no, soft power is being debunked by some academics saying that, every time people point to soft power, there's always hard power behind it. Power comes from economics, it comes from military might, it comes from political clout on the world stage. It doesn't come
also from culture,
living in a big
also
house.
From culture and identity. Well, if you boil it down like that, then of course you side away any of the magic which makes it appeal to a lot of people.
Okay, let's get on to this. You said about being divisive. Most people are fairly indifferent to the monarchy. There are a substantial minority that want it gone. There's a substantial minority that like it, and there's a whole bunch of people that couldn't care less. It is a divisive institution.
But I tell you what, on those occasions, can I just say this, Graham? There is so little, increasingly little we share in this country. There are so many divides between us, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And on those occasions when there is a wedding, a state opening of Parliament, or whatever it may be, or a funeral,
no one cares about the state opening of Parliament.
No one cares, but they care. They care about the weddings and the funerals, Graham. They certainly do.
So
and these are these rare occasions that bring people together.
They've been they don't.
You don't think these are valuable? You don't think these are valuable occasions?
No, but they don't bring people together.
What can compete with that? What would we have if not those sorts of occasions?
But there've been 2 royal weddings in the last 15 years, and
Jubilee?
Most people were not that interested.
The Jubilee?
And most people weren't interested in that as well. And most and the coronation.
I would respectfully disagree.
The polling
Graham.
was
It's great to talk to you. Okay, thank you, Graham. It's great to talk to you. Great to spar with you, Graham Smith, Chief Executive of Republic. But we've run way over time, and we want to talk to our callers, of course, about King Charles, because David Dimbleby has had a bit of a pop. He's got a new BBC series coming out, and he's saying that Charles needs to work harder to stay out of politics, keep his nose out. Do you agree? Or do you like the fact that we have a monarch with opinions and ideas? How in general do you think King Charles is doing? Is the monarchy fit for the 21st century? 0345 6060 973. You're listening to Claire Foges. It's 8:22.
This is LBC. Chase is the digital bank you can count on.
How so?
Because you get 1% cash back on your grocery shop.
Like on prosciutto?
Yeah, prosciutto.
And seaweed crackers?
Sure, those two.
Oh, hang on. What about rotisserie chickens?
If it's in your grocery shop, Chase has got your cash back. Join today and get 1% cash back on debit card spending on groceries, fuel and everyday transport. Chase, see what your money can do. 18 plus UK residents. Eligibility applies. 1% cash back for your first year. Maximum £15 per month. Exceptions apply.
Hi, I'm looking for a pair of jeans.
Right. Low slung, slouchy, wide leg, barrel leg, curved leg, flared, straight or skinny.
Blue?
Fashion. It's hard to keep on top of. Other things like the upcoming changes to renting are a bit easier. As a landlord, you will need to get on top of these important changes. These changes will affect how you manage your tenancies. Read the guidance at gov.uk/renting is changing.
Leading Britain's conversation with Claire Foges. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
We're talking about the royal family. This is because David Dimbleby has a new series out on the BBC this week, 3-part series, What's the Royal Family For? The second episode is going to be examining the royal family's fortune, much of it derived from the duchies of Cornwall and Lancaster, vast property empires that fund the heir and sovereign respectively. It was George VI, Elizabeth's father, our late Queen Elizabeth's father, who persuaded the government of the day that the monarch should no longer pay income tax. His daughter voluntarily resumed paying it in 1993, just to get that point across. They do pay income tax, but the duchies still don't pay corporation tax. Dimbleby says the household is too defensive when questioned about the family's opaque financial affairs. Does this get your goat that they are not paying corporation tax? And what do you think about King Charles inviting the Prime Minister and Angela Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister, to see his housing project in Cornwall? Do you think he should be staying out of things? Would it get your back up if you were to find out, as an aide has suggested in this documentary, that King Charles is still writing letters to ministers? 0345 6060 973. Dave says, something tells me Claire wants an honour, MBE maybe. Dave, I already have one. It's an OBE, babe. Anthony is in Mill Hill. Good evening, Anthony.
Hi, Claire. Firstly, I'd like to say that the two previous speakers, first the lady and then the gentleman, are loggerheads about their point of view. I thought the gentleman who spoke was...
That was Graham of Republic, and the lady, I think, was me referring to, Anthony. I'm pro King Charles.
Okay. What I think about him, though, is that he sounded like a small-minded, ruthless, cold-hearted individual who wouldn't even give you the opportunity of talking and was talking over you a great deal at the time, which makes me wonder what his competence is like in general. A very unpleasant human being.
Anthony, you're so gallant to come to my response, but it's what we do. We have conversations like that. It's absolutely fine. I think Graham was just trying to get his point across. But what's your view on it all? I guess you're more on my side of the debate. Well, from what you're telling me.
I think that in all respects, the monarchy is a very good thing for this country. A lot of what you said has already covered it. My own personal reason for thinking this is that I don't think the royal job is an easy job. I don't think that Charles doesn't work hard. I think he worked extremely hard. He may not work hard in the same way as you mentioned, the group of workers in this country. But in his own way, he works extremely hard. And also, if you consider tourism in this country, I think you could be quite sure that a lot of people come here because of our family. And they, I would imagine, see it similarly as I do. You've got a group of people who are separate from the public. As such, they do their best to present a very fine example to us all. And I think that they're very important in times of whatever, to show some kind of glamour, some kind of leadership, and some type of example. And I think we would be very, very much poorer without them. And finally, in regard to money, I don't think we should be so penny-pinched as to try to ruin this wonderful drama of the royal family for the sake of a few $1 million, because it would go into who knows where if it didn't go to them anyway.
Anthony, you speak so much sense. This is music to my ears. I love what you say about glamour. I mean, people can see that as a sort of frippery, a frivolous word. But, you know, when you were saying that, the words from that song, "You paved paradise and put up a parking lot," I think the Republicans would like to sort of mothball Windsor Castle, get rid of all the pageantry and the trumpets and so on, and have some sort of ghastly utilitarian system, an elected head of state living in, I don't know, a porter cabin somewhere or something like that. I mean, they do, in Scandinavia, they've got they're called the bicycling monarchs, aren't they? And they're famously low-key, because that's how they like to do things. I don't want my monarch on a bicycle, thank you very much. I don't want to see King Charles or anyone else in Lycra or Prince William or whatever, because it would spoil the mystique. Anthony, I think that's what you were getting across, isn't it? It would be a false economy to kind of get rid of all this stuff.
Actually, they're part of a very deep psychological richness within us, and we're very fortunate to have it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anthony. Enjoyed your contribution very much. Scott is in West Hampstead. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Claire. I agree with everything that Anthony has said. He stole my thunder. I was going to say all of the tapes on the things.
It's a royalist loving, Scott.
I disagree entirely with what Graham said. I mean, the monarchy in this country, how long has it gone on for? 2,000 years? I mean, I'm so interested in history. Not just royal history, but just history in general. And you're right about the soft power that the royals, are able to wield, across the world. And they have our royal family is the envy of many countries in this world. And as far as King Charles being involved in all of these areas that he's particularly interested in. I mean, the climate change, he's been to conferences there, and I listened to his speeches when he went over to France. He's a great ambassador for our country, to France, to Paris, and he spoke to French politicians, and then he did the same in Germany shortly after he became king. And it's absolutely wonderful, and he spoke in French and German, and I've got great respect for the royal family, and Prince William, the work that he's doing in the area of homelessness and mental health, and his brother and Prince Harry. I don't know where Graham's coming from. I mean, we want a republic headed by a character like, dare I say it, President Trump. I mean, he's got his good points and he's got his bad points. But I think Trump loves being entertained, being, quoted and so on, coming over to bid in on the second royal visit, although I wasn't sure I really wanted him over here on the second royal visit. But I have great respect for the royal family, and in my collection of books here, I have 2 books written by King Charles. The first one is one you referred to his interest in architecture, and the book's called A Vision of Britain, which was a wonderful book he wrote when he was Prince of Wales. And I also have a book that he wrote called The Old Man of Lochnagar, which is a beautifully illustrated children's book, and great.
He's a great painter, isn't he, as well? Yes, I'd forgotten about that. Oh, thank you so much, Scott. Full-throated defence of the royal family. Thank you. To counter Graham from Republics, rather, it felt rather mean-minded. I can't see, I mean, some people would think I'm just being sycophantic, fair enough. I can't really see how you can get so worked up about the existence of this, group of about 10 people. If that now, our streamlined monarchy is basically 7 people, isn't it? It's Charles and Camilla, William, Kate, and their 3 children, basically, to whom most of the spoils go. And I think they're doing a decent enough job. They project a nice image. There's huge power. What an asset to the nation is Kate. I've forgotten her, Cambridge, no, Wales, sorry, the Princess of Wales, to have a beautiful, smiling, radiant lady in a tiara. This is, I mean, talk about soft power. I mean, it might seem very retrograde, but it's just a fact that these personalities get us a lot of positive attention from around the world. And I think it was a bit unfair for Graham to say that they had embarrassed our nation on their tours overseas. Anyway, what are your thoughts on it all? 0345 606 0973. Do you agree with David Dimbleby that King Charles needs to keep his nose out of political affairs and so on, and that they need to pay tax? 84850 is the number to text. Now, after the news, Ukrainian naval drones have hit 2 oil tankers from Russia's so-called shadow fleet as they travel back through the Black Sea, according to Ukrainian officials. We will be speaking to Alexei Goncharenko, Ukrainian MP and president of the PACE Committee on Migration, Refugees and Displaced Persons. You're listening to Claire Foges on LBC. It's 8:32, time for the news with Tim Daly.
Talks have begun in Washington over the current US-led peace plan for Ukraine. Kyiv says it's working for a real peace and an end to the war with Russia nearly 4 years since it began. A man's been arrested on the suspicion of attempted murder after 4 people were injured in Greater Manchester early this morning. Officers were sent to Altrincham following reports of what's being called a disturbance. And the amber warning for rain, signalling a possible danger to life in the majority of South Wales, is being extended. Nearly a month's worth of rain has been forecast to fall over 24 hours. LBC weather, clear and frosty in eastern areas at times before milder weather pushes in. That will bring wet and windy conditions from the west. We'll see a low of 6 degrees.
This is LBC.
Brands that use radio are 49% more likely to get noticed. Amplify your advertising at radiocentre.org. Assuming you want to get noticed.
I'm fulfilling more international orders thanks to working capital support.
Export insurance protects my business against the risk of not getting paid by an overseas buyer.
At UK Export Finance, we help businesses export with confidence. Between 2024 and 2025, we provided over £14 billion of government-backed finance and insurance to help businesses grow overseas. Search UK Export Finance to find out how we could help you win export contracts, fulfill orders, and get paid.
When it comes to retirement advice, the last thing you want is to be put in a bucket. Seen as this type of person, or that type of person. At Fisher Investments UK, we never put you in a bucket. We always tailor retirement advice that's just right for you. Fisher Investments UK, retirement advice that's as individual as you are. Learn more at fisherinvestments.co.uk. Investing involves the risk of loss. Fisher Investments UK is regulated by the UK Financial Conduct Authority.
Do you ever feel like getting back under your duvet in the middle of the day? Ferroglobin is a great-tasting liquid formula with iron, which contributes to the reduction of tiredness and fatigue and normal formation of hemoglobin. Ferroglobin from Vitabiotics at Boots, pharmacies and vitabiotics.com.
This is LBC with Claire Foges. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Have you had my ding-dong with Graham from Republic earlier in the hour? Gethin says you completely lost that argument with Graham. Most of us are indifferent to the royal family and they must start paying their fair share of taxes like the rest of us. Thank you, Gethin. What would the fair share of taxes be? I do wonder if those who are so keen for the royals to pay more in taxes would ever be happy with whatever was ponied up. I mean, I think if I were Prince William looking at how to reshape the monarchy to ensure its continuing relevance, I think it's fair to say this is one thing that I would be looking at, certainly. And David Dimbleby, he has also been struck by Prince William's recent declaration that changes on his agenda. And when asked what William should do, Dimbleby, who's presented this new a 3-part documentary on the royals to the BBC, he says, I'd try to put myself in the same position as any other citizen and say I'm here on a hereditary basis, but I don't need privileges for that. I don't want people bowing to me. I want a much simpler role, and that will give me time to go around meeting people, talking about homelessness and poverty. I'm keen not to be living a lavish lifestyle, but is perfectly comfortably off, looking after my family, doing my bit, almost behaving like an elected president might behave. I would say fair enough. I think with the lavish lifestyle thing, though, I don't think they come across as especially lavish. William and Kate do. I mean, they're not sort of seen bouncing on and off yachts all the time or driving flashy cars and so on. I think they're seen as sort of earnest, humble, nice people who are seen in hospices in Doncaster or children's centres in Cornwall or whatever, just out and about. I think they come across extremely well. And obviously they have their particular interest too on mental health and early years development and that sort of thing. But I'd love to know your thoughts on how Prince William can be making the monarchy more relevant, I suppose, is the right word for the coming decades. Give me a call, let me know your thoughts. 0345 6060973. Text me on 84850. We're going to go now back to your calls. Kevin is in Basingstoke. Hi, Kevin. What do you think about this?
Yeah, hi, Claire. You said the monarchy is streamlined. I mean, the £500 million a year. I don't think that's streamlined. It's costing more money every year.
Streamlined, I meant that there are fewer. What I was given to understand was that King Charles's vision for the monarchy was that there should be basically the 7 of them in the spotlight: himself, Camilla, and William and Kate and their 3 children. So rather than all these sort of the wider family being in on the act on everything and on the balcony on everything, on the Buckingham Palace balcony, it's more of a streamlined affair these days. But you're saying do you?
Nothing to do with him, though, is it? I mean, Harry left. I mean, he hasn't done it, cut the monarchy down for any other reason, has he? It wasn't people peace. And also, I mean, the tourism thing. I mean, that comes out all the time. France hasn't got a monarchy, neither does America, and they've got more tourists than we've got. And where's the evidence that
they've got more? You might argue, well, America's much bigger, isn't it? But as far as France goes, you might argue, and I hate to say it, I'm a patriotic person, but they have more of the natural beauty going on in France, don't they? It's a different country entirely. It's difficult. You're kind of comparing apples and pears there. I do think that a lot of people are drawn to this country from around the world due to a kind of mystique associated with the royal family and a certain sort of glamour. It's not everyone's kind of glamour, but
there's no proof, is there? People roll that out all the time. There's no proof that, I mean, there's not, they don't
it's what I believe. These things aren't always a science. You're asking me for proof. It's what I believe, but you believe this has got nothing to do with it, that they have no appeal beyond our borders, that they are a waste of space, Kevin. Am I
well, look at the scandal with the documentary Dispatches on Channel 4. They were making money out of everything they do. The NHS, prison services, the military. I mean, they make enough money. They've got, I mean, they're one of the richest families on the planet. They don't need to be making that money out of the ambulance service, do they? I mean,
I covered it on the show, and I was hotly against all that. It was a very, very bad look, wasn't it? But I don't imagine. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't imagine that's Prince William and King Charles in a room sort of rubbing their hands together and thinking, how much can we charge for these ambulances on our land? Obviously, fiendishly complex estates and trusts and so on involved.
I bet they're still doing it, though. And also, what about all the laws that they don't abide by? There's 160 laws that we have to abide by, but the monarch doesn't.
Such as what?
Somebody was racially abused, lost their job, or some sort of discrimination. They can't fight their case. They've got no recourse. And air quality, rivers, farming, houses. I mean, they rent.
Well, hang on a minute, Kevin. So you're saying that the duchy land, that they're not subject to any laws on air quality or all these sorts of things?
Well, there's 160 laws that they don't abide by, that the rest of us do. I mean, they rent out homes that are mouldy, damp as well, I heard.
Okay. That's not something I've heard, but I feel we're sort of talking about things which may or may not be the case. So let me look into these things before the end of the show. We're going to look up the mouldy charge. Thank you, Kevin. Callie's in Lee on Solent. Hi, Callie. What do you think?
Hi. Well, I really do hope that the monarchy doesn't exist when my grandchildren get to my age, because I think it's elitist. It's an emblem, really, of the way the country is, where we've got some people who are still living on the streets. We've got people desperate for housing. We've got people in food banks, people who can't get medical treatment in time. and so on. And then at the other
Callie, if you click your fingers and make the royal family disappear in a puff of smoke, that will change none of that, I'm afraid.
Well, at least it would make the country a slightly fairer place if we stopped this elitism.
It wouldn't make any difference to anyone's life. You know, on the street, it wouldn't suddenly alleviate poverty.
It wouldn't suddenly, but at least we might be able to change the tone of the country and stop worshipping people for having money, which is what happens in this country. There's this incredible elitism, and people are idolised simply because they're privileged. It really does need. I mean, people say, "Oh, you wouldn't want, I don't know, Trump or something as leader of the country." No, but you could vote him out. You can't vote the royal family out. I have nothing against them personally. The ones, I've only ever met one actually, and the ones you know that you tend to see, Charles and William and so on, seem perfectly pleasant people. I have nothing personally against them. Never, don't know them, and no reason to have anything against them. But they're a figurehead, really, of an establishment that really does need to change. And I've been saying this now for the last 60 years.
So you do believe, Callie, that the royal family set the tone which influences our lives across this country?
No,
and that if we were a republic, that there would be less of an emphasis on wealth and materialism and those sorts of things.
I don't think they set the tone, but I think they are an emblem of how this country seems to work. That with all the care or being directed at the better off, well, to be honest, I mean, if you look at it politically at the moment, what all the right-wing papers say, calling the latest budget a welfare budget. In other words, you can condemn people who haven't got much, but you've got to get down on your knees and worship people who've got everything. Now, I mean, if we could even just maybe tone it down and have a royal family more like some of the European ones, where they are not just absolutely looked on as some form of religion almost, where you still have a royal family, which I try not to have, but I mean a good sort of compromise perhaps would be.
I just think what's the point? What's the point if there's none of the flummery and pomp and circumstance? I see these people, I don't see them as sort of God-divined rulers of our country. I just think they happen to be the people born into this family. And I like the family to exist because it gives a reason for the pomp and circumstance and flummery to exist. I don't see the point of a kind of bicycling monarchy. Why would anyone? Because you would lose the stardust, really. I mean, the point is that charities and worthy events all over the country, there is stardust lent by the royal family, and that's sort of star wattage. And I think if they were just sort of kind of very meek people who's bicycled around and had given up all their castles, it wouldn't have quite the same power.
Well, I was saying that as a compromise between the people who want a monarchy and the people who don't. But personally, I prefer we didn't have one at all. But I don't actually think. I mean, maybe we need to come down to earth a little bit, rather than being struck by stardust and so on. We're not living in Disneyland, it's life.
Okay, Callie in Leon Solent. Callie wants, I would argue, is a sort of slightly more grim and grey and utilitarian sort of version of our country. I just think, I remember when I used to work in Downing Street, and sometimes you'd be walking along up the Mall or something, and there'd be, the Mall would be lined with Union Jacks fluttering in the sunshine, or suddenly you'd see 20 dark chestnut horses going along with the soldiers in the red jackets on the back and so on. You just think this is also, it's so crazy, it's so anachronistic. These horses weaving between the traffic, this palace at the end of the Mall in the middle of our very modern capital city. But I love that juxtaposition. It's so wonderful, it's so magical. And I can't really get worked up about how, 10 people that I don't know live these rather lovely and lavish lives. I think they're not in my mind day to day. They're just quite a nice little diversion, and every now and again they have an event which brings the country together, which I think is a valuable thing. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with David Dimbleby suggesting really that the monarchy needs to get ship-shape for the 21st century? He suggests, it seems, in this documentary, it hasn't aired yet, but from his interviews he's suggesting that they need to get more relevant, they should be paying more tax, and Charles, certainly he's suggesting, should be getting his nose out of any political affairs. What are your views? 0345 6060 973. This is Claire Foges. The time is now 8:47.
Coming up at 9 on LBC, the Consumer Hour, leading Britain's conversation. Next on LBC.
You are not an egg. You should not be put in a box. But when it comes to retirement advice, that's how some people get treated. Put in a one-size-fits-all box. Not at Fisher Investments UK. We work with you to create a personalised retirement plan. Fisher Investments UK. Retirement advice that's as individual as you are. Learn more at fisherinvestments.co.uk. Investing involves the risk of loss. Fisher Investments UK is regulated by the UK Financial Conduct Authority.
Hi, I'm looking for a pair of jeans.
Right. Low slung slouchy, wide leg, bower leg, flared, straight or skinny.
Blue?
Fashion. It's hard to keep on top of. Other things like the upcoming changes to renting are a bit easier. As a landlord, you will need to get on top of these important changes. These changes will affect how you manage your tenancies. Read the guidance at gov.uk/renting is changing.
Black Friday is non-stop. Orders, calls, messages.
Sounds like you need the right sidekick to keep business booming, Claire.
In
EE's Black Friday sale, you can save £720 on a 36-month plan with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Perfect to keep your business running smoothly.
Thanks, Kev.
Search EE Business today. BT and EE, better for business.
Excludes 20% VAT. Ends 4th of December. Terms apply.
Claire Foges on LBC.
Good evening. We are talking about the monarchy because David Dimbleby has got a new show out starting this week, and he's got some rather critical and pointed things to say about King Charles. Not least that he should be staying out of political affairs. He didn't like the fact that he was taking the Prime Minister and Angela Rayner earlier this year on a tour of his housing project in Cornwall. This he thought was overstepping the mark. What do you think? 0345 6060 973. Text me on 84850. You will have heard my paean of praise to the monarch. I'm not sort of slavishly devoted to King Charles. I don't agree with him on everything. He spoke out about the Rwanda thing, which is another story for another time, but I think it was probably the least bad idea, the Rwanda scheme brought in on migration by the last government to stop the boats, to deter people from coming here. And of course King Charles spoke out about that. I don't agree with him on that. I don't agree with him on a fair few things, but I think I admire the fact that he's been committed to certain causes, and it bothers me not at all that he writes letters to ministers. To be honest, I would imagine, having worked in politics, that they are not influenced at all by these letters from the king. You know, this is not 5 centuries ago. This is 2025. But you might think that any kind of letter to any politician from the monarch is overstepping the mark. 0345 6060 973. Emily's in Kilburn. Hi, Emily.
Oh, hello. I just wanted to say that I'm not a monarchist. And one of the things I read in I think it was The Guardian recently, was that if you die and you don't have an heir, then your estate goes to the crown. And I found that really disgusting. It made me quite angry, actually. And they use the money to repair their estate. And I thought, okay, well, actually they should be serving us. If anything, if you die without an heir to your estate, why should the money go to the crown? That really annoyed me. And other things about the monarchy annoy me as well. And I think...
What, such as what?
Well, I think they're living in very expensive properties, a lavish lifestyle. I would prefer to see them cycling around on bikes. I disagree with you. I'm not.
It seems it seems rather mean. It seems that people just want to humble them by sort of, we want to see them riding around with bikes and humble. But I mean, they do, yes, it's not the riches, the lifestyle and the acclaim they get is not equal to the actual work they do. Okay, fair enough. It's a couple of hours here or there.
A lot of people do charity work, and they have, maids, servants, all these staff, kind of.
So you essentially would like to abolish the monarchy?
I would, and I wish that their palaces and their houses were turned over to the public and we could use that money for charity. I mean, someone mentioned already that you get tourists going to France, they got rid of their monarchy. It doesn't stop them having many tourists that visit there more than this country. So I just think that they are out of